Welcome back, coin collectors and enthusiasts. Today, we have something truly special to explore, something that could be hiding in your pockets or in an old coin jar, just waiting to be discovered. If you love rare coins or are new to the world of numismatics, then you're in for a treat, because we're talking about a coin that could be worth far more than its original face value. That's right, I'm talking about the 1965 United States quarter dollar, a coin that is part of a fascinating story and has a surprising value that might make your jaw drop. At first glance, the 1965 quarter might seem like just another piece of American currency, one of the millions minted that year. After all, it's been over 50 years since this coin was first released into circulation. But the truth is, this particular quarter is more than meets the eye, and it has a story that makes it one of the most interesting and valuable coins in the U.S. mint's history. Let's go back in time to 1965. This was a turning point for the U.S. Mint and the country as a whole. In 1965, the U.S. government made the monumental decision to remove silver from most of its circulating coins. Up until that point, quarters, dimes, and half dollars had been made with a substantial amount of silver. But in 1965, with the rising cost of silver and a need to curb coin production costs, the mint switched to a copper-nickel composition for these coins. Now, this may seem like a small change, but it had huge implications for coin collectors. The shift to a copper-nickel blend meant that the 1965 quarter, while still technically a quarter, no longer contained the silver that made earlier versions so desirable. However, there's a catch. Many collectors believe that some 1965 quarters, particularly those that were struck on leftover silver blanks from previous years, could still contain a small amount of silver. This creates a rare and fascinating category of 1965 quarters, those that are known as silver error coins. These are coins that were mistakenly struck on silver planchets from prior years, meaning they have a unique blend of silver and copper-nickel. Because these coins were never supposed to exist, they are incredibly rare and highly sought after by collectors. Now, let's talk about what makes these silver error 1965 quarters so special and valuable. As we mentioned, these coins were struck on blanks intended for other denominations or years. This means they don't look exactly like the typical 1965 quarter, and they have a weight, shine, and luster that are different from the regular copper-nickel coins produced that year. These coins stand out because of their distinctive characteristics, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for the rarity of a quarter that was never meant to be made. If you have a 1965 quarter, the first thing you'll want to do is check for any signs that it might be one of these silver error coins. Look closely at the weight of the coin. Silver error quarters will weigh about 6.25 grams, while the standard 1965 quarters are lighter due to the copper-nickel composition. Additionally, you might notice a slight difference in the shine and color. Silver coins tend to have a more brilliant, shiny appearance compared to their copper-nickel counterparts, but that's not the only thing that could increase the value of a 1965 quarter. Even without the silver error, there are other factors at play that make certain 1965 quarters more valuable than others. For example, the condition of the coin is a huge factor. Coins that are in excellent, uncirculated condition, with sharp details and minimal wear, will be worth more than those that have been heavily circulated or damaged over time. Collectors also look for other potential minting errors, such as misaligned dies or double strikes. These errors occur when the coin is struck improperly, causing the design to appear slightly off-center or doubled. While these errors are not as common, they can make a coin significantly more valuable, especially when combined with its rarity and historical significance. So, how much could a 1965 quarter be worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to have a silver error 1965 quarter or one in pristine condition, you could be sitting on something incredibly valuable. Coins like these have been known to fetch prices far beyond their original 25-cent value. In fact, a 1965 quarter with one of these rare minting errors or in top condition could be worth as much as $79,000. Yes, you heard that right, $79,000 for a single 1965 quarter. Imagine that. A quarter that was originally worth 25 cents could now be worth an incredible amount due to its rarity and the errors associated with it. It's amazing how a small mistake in the minting process can turn a humble coin into a collector's dream. So, what should you do if you think you have a rare 1965 quarter? The first step is to carefully inspect the coin for any signs of errors or unusual features. Then, get it professionally graded by a numismatic expert to assess its condition and rarity. A certified coin grading service can help determine its value based on its condition, errors, and overall desirability in the collector market. Coin collectors around the world are constantly on the lookout for hidden treasures like the 1965 silver error quarter, so if you happen to find one of these rare coins, you'll want to make sure it's properly evaluated. It could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Top 2. That's right, we're talking about the 1967 United States quarter dollar. At first glance, this may seem like just another regular quarter, but there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. If you're a collector, or even if you're just getting started, you'll want to pay close attention, because the 1967 quarter could be worth far more than its face value. First, let's take a moment to understand what makes the 1967 quarter so special. 1967 was an interesting year in U.S. history. The country was deep into the 1960s, a decade marked by social change, political upheaval, and a vibrant cultural scene. The U.S. Mint was busy producing millions of quarters to meet the growing demand for coins. But what many people don't realize is that the 1967 quarter is one of the most fascinating and valuable coins from that era due to a series of minting errors and its historical context. The most interesting part about the 1967 quarter is the way it was produced. By 1965, the U.S. Mint had begun removing silver from most of its circulating coins due to rising silver prices. In 1967, the government decided to continue with the copper-nickel blend for quarters, but a few strange and rare mistakes occurred during production. These errors, combined with the quarter's place in U.S. coin history, make the 1967 quarter a must-have for collectors. So, what's the big deal with the 1967 quarter? Well, some of these coins were struck on leftover silver planchets from previous years. This means that while most 1967 quarters were made with a copper-nickel alloy, a small number were made with a silver composition by mistake. These silver error coins are extremely rare and highly valuable to collectors. The silver content in these coins makes them stand out from the rest, and the fact that they were never supposed to exist only adds to their allure. But how can you tell if you have one of these rare silver error coins? The first thing you'll want to check is the weight. A regular 1967 quarter made from the copper-nickel blend weighs about 5.67 grams. But if you've got one made with silver, it'll weigh slightly more, around 6.25 grams, just like older silver quarters. You can use a small scale to weigh the coin, and if it's in the 6.25 gram range, you've got yourself a very rare silver error coin. This could be a real treasure, so don't let it slip away unnoticed. Another potential error you might find on a 1967 quarter is a misaligned die. This happens when the die that strikes the coin doesn't align perfectly with the blank planchet, causing the design to appear off-center. A misaligned die can result in a unique, almost skewed appearance, which collectors find incredibly appealing. The more dramatic the misalignment, the higher the coin's value. Coins like this are rare and sought after because they are considered minting anomalies, and in some cases, they are worth far more than a regular quarter. It's also worth noting that the condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its value. Most 1967 quarters that were used in circulation over the years are worn down, losing much of their original detail. However, if you happen to have one that is in mint or near mint condition, free from scratches, discoloration, or other damage, it will be much more valuable. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins that have been well preserved, as these coins can fetch significantly higher prices in the market. And now, you might be wondering, how much can a 1967 quarter actually be worth? Well, the value of a coin depends on a few key factors, such as rarity, condition, and whether or not it has any errors. While most regular 1967 quarters are worth their face value of 25 cents, those with the rare silver error or in excellent condition can fetch a price far beyond that. If you happen to have one of the rare silver error coins or a quarter with a unique minting flaw, you could be looking at a price in the tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, a 1967 quarter with a silver error, in pristine condition, could be worth as much as $77,000. Yes, you heard that right, $77,000 for a single 1967 quarter. It's hard to believe that such a small coin could be worth so much, but that's the magic of rare coins and minting errors. These coins are pieces of history, and their value increases over time as fewer and fewer remain in circulation. If you find one of these rare coins, you could have a true collector's item on your hands, and you might be able to make a very profitable sale. If you think you found a 1967 quarter with any kind of error, or if you've got one in great condition, it's worth getting it professionally graded. A certified coin grading service can help determine the true value of your coin based on its condition, rarity, and market demand. And if it turns out that your 1967 quarter is one of the rare silver errors, you could be holding a valuable treasure that could bring you a significant return. So, if you're searching through your change jar or sorting through your coin collection, keep an eye out for the 1967 quarter. It might look like just another ordinary coin, but it could be hiding a fortune. If you're a coin collector or just starting out, the 1967 quarter is definitely one you'll want to keep on your radar. Top 3 today, we're talking about the 1986 United States quarter dollar. At first glance, this may seem like just another modern quarter, but as we'll discover, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye. In fact, if you're a collector or someone who's been gathering coins for a while, the 1986 quarter could be worth more than you could ever imagine. Now, before we get into the specifics, let's take a quick trip back to 1986. The world was a very different place back then. Reagan was in office, the Space Shuttle Challenger tragically exploded, and pop culture was booming with the release of Top Gun and the launch of the iconic The Oprah Winfrey Show. In terms of U.S. currency, the 1986 quarter was part of a continuous run of coins produced with the familiar Washington design on the obverse. The reverse of the coin, however, was part of a tradition that had been in place for decades, with no major changes to the coin's appearance at that time. While the 1986 quarter wasn't a new or groundbreaking design, what makes this particular coin stand out is not the design itself, but rather the way it was struck and the possibility of errors that occurred during production. The key to the 1986 quarter's rarity and value lies in these minting errors, some of which could turn your standard 25-cent coin into a treasure worth much, much more. So, what makes the 1986 quarter so special, and why should collectors take notice of it? First, let's talk about the rare minting errors that make this coin so desirable. When you hear about valuable coins, you often hear about errors, and for good reason. Those errors can make a coin incredibly rare and valuable. One of the most notable errors that can be found on 1986 quarters is the double die error. This happens when the coin is struck more than once, causing the image to appear slightly doubled. The most noticeable place to find this error is in the date and the lettering, such as Liberty and In God We Trust. These coins stand out to collectors because they are not like any other quarters produced that year. If you happen to have one of these, you found something that could be worth far more than a standard 25-cent coin. In addition to the double die error, another potential issue with the 1986 quarter is the misaligned die. When a coin is struck off-center, you end up with a quarter where the design appears to be slightly tilted or misplaced. It's a subtle error that only the trained eye can catch, but when you spot one, it can be a sign that the coin is a rare find. Misaligned die coins are desirable because they are unique and one of a kind. If you're lucky enough to come across a 1986 quarter with a misaligned die, especially one that's noticeable to the eye, you could be sitting on a rare and valuable piece of U.S. currency. But it's not just the minting errors that could make the 1986 quarter valuable. Another important factor is the condition of the coin. Like any other coin, a well-preserved 1986 quarter in near mint or uncirculated condition can be worth more than a coin that's been worn down over time. Because quarters are regularly used in daily transactions, most of the 1986 quarters that are out there have experienced some level of wear. However, finding a 1986 quarter in pristine condition, one that has sharp details, no scratches, and no discoloration, makes it more attractive to collectors. Coins that have been well preserved can command much higher prices, and this applies to the 1986 quarter as well. So, what exactly can you expect a 1986 quarter to be worth? While most 1986 quarters are worth just their face value of 25 cents, there are those rare examples with minting errors or in excellent condition that can fetch a much higher price. It all depends on the rarity of the error and the condition of the coin. And now, the big question: how much could a rare 1986 quarter be worth? If you happen to have one of the highly coveted error coins, or if your coin is in pristine condition, you could be looking at a value of up to $71,000. Yes, you heard that right, $71,000 for a single 1986 quarter. While that's not something you'll see every day, it's possible if you've got a coin with a notable minting error or one that's been impeccably preserved. Coin collectors and investors know that the value of rare coins like this can skyrocket, especially if they're one of a kind, with error characteristics or pristine details that make them stand out in the marketplace. So, what should you do if you think you found one of these rare 1986 quarters? The first step is to carefully inspect the coin. Look for any signs of errors, like double die strikes or misaligned die issues. Check the weight as well, as a coin that's unusually heavy or light could be another clue. If you find that your quarter is in fantastic condition with no visible wear, it could be worth a lot more than a standard quarter. The next step is to have the coin professionally graded by a certified numismatist. A professional grading service can evaluate the condition of the coin and confirm whether it's worth a premium price. Coin collectors around the world are always on the lookout for rare and unique pieces, so if you find a 1986 quarter with any kind of error or in top condition, you might just have a valuable coin on your hands. If you've been collecting coins for a while, or if you're just starting out, the 1986 quarter is definitely one to keep an eye on. Thank you for joining us in today's video. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1986 quarter and want to learn more about rare coins, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a coin discovery. Top 4 1994 quarter. At some point, it's a coin that, for many, just blends into the mix of our everyday pocket change. But let me tell you, if you think the 1994 quarter is just a simple, run-of-the-mill coin, you're in for a surprise. This seemingly unremarkable quarter could actually be worth much more than you think. If you're a coin collector, or even just someone who enjoys learning about rare finds, you'll want to stick around for this one. Today, we're diving deep into the United States of America 1994 quarter dollar, and trust me, you don't want to miss what we have to say. To start, let's set the stage by looking at the 1994 quarter's background. By 1994, the U.S. Mint had already been producing the George Washington quarter for decades, with the same classic design gracing the obverse. The reverse of the coin featured an eagle, an image synonymous with American currency, representing freedom, power, and the nation's enduring strength. 1994 was another year in a long line of coin production, but unbeknownst to many, this coin holds something special. The 1994 quarter is what we'd consider a modern coin. But here's the kicker: despite its modern status, it's not exactly common to find one in pristine condition. And let me tell you, that pristine condition is where the real value lies. You see, coins that were regularly circulated in the 90s, like the 1994 quarter, were used for everyday transactions, meaning they've experienced wear and tear over the years. Coins from this period are often found with scratches, dings, and faded details. But when you find one that's been well preserved, free from damage, or one that hasn't been in heavy circulation, you've got yourself something really rare. And now, let's talk about the real treasure behind the 1994 quarter errors. If you followed the world of coin collecting for even a short while, you know that minting errors are one of the most sought-after features in a coin. In the case of the 1994 quarter, there are a few notable errors that can make this coin extremely valuable. One of the most popular errors collectors look for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is struck incorrectly, causing the design to appear shifted to one side. A quarter with an off-center strike is unique, because it's one of those rare anomalies that make it stand out from every other coin in circulation. And let me tell you, an off-center 1994 quarter, especially one that's significantly misaligned, can command a hefty price. Another error you'll want to keep an eye out for is the double die error. This happens when a coin is struck more than once, resulting in the design appearing slightly doubled. You might notice the doubling in areas like the date, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." If you can spot one of these double dies on a 1994 quarter, you've found something truly special. These errors are highly collectible because they're not only rare, but they also provide a unique glimpse into the imperfections of the minting process. And then, there's the possibility of a die crack, a small but intriguing feature where a crack in the die used to strike the coin leaves a permanent mark on the coin. Die cracks are relatively common, but what makes them valuable is their visibility and location. If you find a die crack in a prominent area of the coin, such as on the face of George Washington or along the lettering, it's more likely to be worth a significant amount of money to collectors who are passionate about these kinds of details. So, you might be wondering, what's the price tag on a rare 1994 quarter with one of these errors or in exceptional condition? Most of the 1994 quarters you'll come across are still just worth their face value, 25 cents. But, if you happen to find one of these error coins, especially with a noticeable minting flaw or in uncirculated condition, you could be sitting on a goldmine. Now, for the big reveal. How much can you expect to sell a 1994 quarter for if it's in excellent condition or has a rare minting error? A 1994 quarter that has an off-center strike, double die, or die crack, or one that's simply been preserved in near mint condition, can be worth as much as $71,000. Yes, you heard that right, $71,000 for a single 1994 quarter. That's the kind of value that makes coin collectors drool. Imagine finding this coin in your collection or even just coming across it in a box of change. It's a remarkable reminder that in the world of coins, even a quarter from the 1990s can become a treasure with the right set of circumstances. But how can you tell if your 1994 quarter is worth that kind of money? First, give it a close inspection. Look for the signs of errors we mentioned earlier: off-center strikes, double dies, or die cracks. If the coin is in pristine condition, free from scratches, dents, or discoloration, it's also worth a lot more than face value. And if you're unsure, it's always a good idea to have the coin professionally graded by a certified numismatist. They'll give you an accurate assessment of the coin's value based on its rarity, condition, and the specific error it might have done. If you've been collecting coins for years, or if you're just starting your collection, the 1994 quarter is definitely one to keep an eye out for. It's easy to overlook these small details in everyday change, but as you've learned today, it could be a rare find just waiting to be discovered. Thanks for tuning in to today's coin adventure. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1994 quarter and want to learn more about rare coins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. You never know, your next quarter could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Happy hunting, and good luck with your coin collecting.